Hello, and welcome to part 1 of how yeast ferments. Yeast is a microorganism found in bread, beer, and more. It ferments when in low oxygen conditions. To achieve this, the single-celled fungi has an interesting life on the cellular level. Seen here is the outside of the yeast cell. This seemingly simple sphere belies a complicated story of biological and chemical transformations. As humans require sustenance, so does the yeast cell. It uses sugars as humans would. It is a source of food and energy. Taking this simple food, it must undergo significant transformations inside of the yeast cell. Taking an environment with unlimited volume and endless supply of sugar-rich water, the yeast cell could ferment indefinitely. However, the reality is far more limited. So, how does the yeast cell turn this sugar into energy? A full explanation of saccharide breakdown will be provided in the near future. Suffice to say, sugars are broken down from complex forms to simple forms you would have heard before: sucrose, lactose, and more via enzymatic action outside of the yeast cell. This is then further broken down inside the yeast cell into glucose by a metabolic action called glycolysis. For more information, see the video on this. This then leads into what is known as the TCA cycle. This is also known by the alternative names Krebs cycle and citric acid cycle. It begins with glucose, which is opened up to become a linear glucose molecule. This grants access by the enzymes acting on it. Glucose is then broken down to derivative products. This includes 2 pyruvate molecules and 2 hydrogen ions for every glucose molecule broken down. It then produces CO2 as a result of this process. Each of the pyruvate molecules is shuttled further into the TCA cycle. It then combines with acyl-CoA, forming acetyl-CoA. This then becomes the first step of the TCA cycle's ring. As seen here, CO2 is generated at the beginning of the cycle when pyruvate is formed. CO2 is a base compound which creates an alkaline solution, much like cola. This reduces the suitability of the environment and consequently the viability of anything trying to survive. This takes a highly nutritious environment and turns it into the yeast equivalent of a wasteland. This ends how the yeast cell ferments to produce CO2 during fermentation. The remaining part of the TCA cycle will be posted in the near future. Thank you for watching. Please post any questions, comments, or suggestions you may have below.